This content is brought to you by BEC Financial Technologies, developing and operating IT for Danish banks.
Please give a warm and huge round of applause to Jakub Pawlak. Jakub, the stage is yours. Have fun.
Thanks. So I'd like to start my presentation from the question to you guys. Do you know which big tech companies are using monorepo? So any guesses? Okay, Google. Meetup, yeah? Any? BEC, yeah. So there are a bunch of them. And actually, if you Google for monorepo setup, you will find success stories, and they will tell you that it totally rocks and it's awesome. But the thing is that they are probably lying, because monorepo is not a holy grail of modern software development. But as Sebastian mentioned, BEC, with the company I'm working in, is actually using the monorepo. So we are structuring our code in monorepo, but how we ended up in a monorepo setup. So first of all, we had an application, the business application. Then the business came to us telling that, okay, let's build another application that has some common stuff here and there. So then, okay, that works. Awesome. So then let's introduce some microfrontends. Okay, no problem. We still have some shared parts. And then more and more microfrontends are coming. And then we ended up having monorepo. So what can go wrong? And actually, I would like to tell you about 3 common pitfalls that I encountered during my work with monorepo and tell you why you shouldn't even consider monorepo. Shortly about me, I'm Jakub Pawlak, and here you can see the QR code for a YouTube channel that I'm a co-host with Alexander Lubech, who is sitting right there. And I'm helping with microfrontends and monorepo setup in BEC Poland. And I'm also a past saxophone player, and I'm a co-founder of paintball field near Warsaw. So you are more than welcome there, the painted paintball field. And I'd like to tell you about the monorepo itself, but it will be just a short introduction. And then I will jump into 3 major issues: breaking, lines, and shared. The monorepo. So you can think about the monorepo as a warehouse. In contrary to the multi-repo or polyrepo setup, where you have something like self-storage. So you have boxes for your teams that are really hermetical, really encapsulated. And within monorepo, you are just keeping everything, like really everything. Your backend application, frontend applications, shared code, even multi-frameworks, you name it. Of course, you can also have some monorepo for only frontend projects, and that is our case, where we are storing microfrontends. And monorepo is also coming in 2 different flavors. You might be familiar with NX maybe, or Lerna. Somebody? Okay, so basically Lerna was about managing monorepositories with multiple packages across the project. So each application within the monorepo with Lerna had some kind of separation. And with NX, with integrated monorepo, everything is based upon a shared node modules. So we have like a build system, and we have everything combined, and we are building application within a single version of our dependencies. But the problem with monorepo is actually about code separation, because there is none. Like, you can literally import anything within the monorepo if you don't set it up properly. And of course, monorepo is not only about microfrontends. So I mentioned you can store within the monorepo different bunch of stuff. So the first issue, breaking stuff. And I would like to start with a theory about the windows, about the broken windows. So this theory states that neglected small issues over time are like causing major crimes. And that's exactly the same thing about the monorepo. So within the monorepo, there are thousands of lines of code that are just waiting for a forbidden change. And with the NX tool, and Lerna was also like incorporated within the NX, there is some nice thingy called NX graph. So you call this command, and then you can visualize your whole monorepo, and then you can detect like detective each dependency and check whether it's okay and not. And this is what NX shows you. But the sad reality is that actually it looks more like this. And this is not an imperial destroyer. Like this is basically the graph of our application, of our monorepo. So maybe I will zoom it a little bit for you. And yeah, that's still not at all readable. And I like basically with these dependencies within the monorepo, the thing is that you might change anything in the really bottom of the graph, and then you have to deploy everything because everything is just standing over the shared stuff. So I would say don't trust the others. And within the monorepo, it's really crucial that you should probably consider code owners. That's kind of an approach, a plugin or a tool that limits access for certain developers. So with monorepo, you should just limit access to different parts of your monorepo. And I assume if you even consider monorepo, probably you should have also automated regression tests, because look at the point above, like anyone can just break anything. So, okay, the regression test, and then also what about the monorepo? Not the code, not the business stuff. The monorepo. Like there was a guy who set up the monorepo and it worked, like it was awesome, and then he left because he just got a better offer. And then after a while, like, yeah, you just don't know what are you doing even. So like what can it mean, like literally, to your developer experience with monorepo? Like this is a CI/CD from our monorepo, like 9 minutes to build, test, lint, everything. That's awesome. But yeah, the sad truth is that that's the best case scenario, because the worst is like 4 hours. You change a comma and you wait 4 hours to your changes to deploy. So that's like insane. Next part, drawing a line. And I don't mean drawing literally, I mean setting boundaries between different bits and pieces within your monorepo and architectural components. And like, what is architectural component? That's kind of a black box forming our system. So you can just have some classes, modules, and they are forming some kind of logical boxes, and then they are forming our systems. And there is a QR code to the Warsaw.js speech about this, but the basic thing is about like architectural components, our building blocks. It can be also some business domains, and actually you can set up the lines. You can set up the boundaries between different domains, and you should do it. So for example, I have some products and orders thingy, and like they should not be interconnected. So you should draw a line between these two domains or architectural components, and you can set it up with slint. So there are at least 2 different plugins for that. So NX is coming with a baked-in one, and recently there is something called Sheriff. So I will show you how the NX graph and NX module boundaries is working. But keep in mind that I'm still referring to the scope. the products and orders, and then I have some shared stuff. Okay, so let me just go to the code. Yeah, and it worked. Like, I was really stressful about this moment, to be honest. Okay, so let's start from the slint file. So, so this is my slint configuration, and here you can see like the definition of my boundaries. So these boundaries are working with the tags. So I'm assigning some tags to my different bits and pieces, the libraries, the building blocks within my monorepo, and they have certain names. So I will focus on the scopes. So I can see my scope orders that can depend on the orders and shared. I assume that's clear. With the products, that's the same thing. I have products and shared, but the shared things cannot depend on the shared stuff, because then I would have some cyclic dependencies. And how does it look with my NX graph? So this is my project, and you can tell that it's really a basic one. And my orders are using shared product and shared UI. And I will just develop my UI component. And the UI component is just a simple item. But the common thing is that I have some name and I would like to add one more property from the product. So I will just use a product interface, because it will be much easier because it's already there. So the product has the ID property, but actually the product is my other shared library that I shouldn't depend on. So I will run the graph once again. And now you can see that my shared UI is dependent upon shared product. And that should not happen. So let me just try to lint my project. I run the linting for my monorepo, and it failed. And it failed because of the issue with tagging. So a project tagged with a scope shared cannot depend on the tags, like the project without tags. So that was my my setup. So to solve this, I should just introduce some new interface with item, okay, and just have it here. So this doesn't really matter how and what it has, but the thing is that it should not depend on the product itself, because I was expecting not to have this dependency. So I will run linting once again, and it is totally fine. NX graph shows me the proper dependency. Okay. So the shared. And I heard already some opinions about shared, and I agree. So you can see a nice pile of trash. And my advice about shared stuff in monorepo: just don't do it. Don't share the code, because, and that was also mentioned, shared stuff has this really ugly tendency to lose the ownership. Like, nobody is just wanting to maintain it, maintain the code, maintain some rules, documentations, etc. Like, nobody is responsible for. So just avoid shared stuff. And you might also consider escaping from shared stuffs, from sharing different bits and pieces, because here we can see my graph of the application, and you can tell that application has some orders domain, and these orders is using shared product. But the issue with this is that if I change anything within the shared product, then I have my whole dependency graph depending on this small piece here. So the better approach, and that was also proposed by Daniel, my colleague in BEC, that maybe we should introduce abstraction. But this abstraction is not only about making an abstraction, it's more like dividing the domain and making it really stable and making it really separated from the other stuff. And here you can see that the application is it's depending upon the orders product, so my new entity, and then shared product, like it's glued in the application itself. So how does it look like in the code? So I assume you remember that's our dependency graph, and we would like to get rid of this particular dependency here. So let me jump to the orders library. Orders library has some orders list, and this list is basically just injecting some simple service and getting products. So nothing really complicated here. So how to solve this? I should just introduce my new interface. So my own implementation, my own interface upon the product object, and then export abstract class. And I will use just the dependency injection for providing proper implementation. So I'm also adding orders product API with abstract method, and my component is just dependent upon this particular abstraction. So I'm still using the same stuff, like still component is there, still dependency injection is there, still everything is working. And of course, I should also glue it somehow, because right now this abstraction is like nothing, like this, it's void. So I should go into my application and then go to the providers array and just use old plain dependency injection mechanism. So I'm providing some existing service to my token that I just introduced. So let me just quickly see the graph now. And yep, that's here. So orders is no longer dependent upon shared product. The shared product is like glued all together. Everything is glued into the application itself. Okay, and you might ask yourself, or even me, about is the monorepo good fit for your project? And there are a bunch of questions you should answer or ask yourself or your team, and try not to read them, because they will just generated by ChatGPT. So like there are just a bunch of questions you should ask yourself, because it's not a straightforward answer that monorepo is okay and not. Like I mentioned pitfalls, but they might be chances for a project. Like it's not a 0-1 situation, because in some terms, like our project needed separation and monorepo didn't give us a separation. But if you need fast development, fast pace, like dynamic team, then maybe monorepo is a good fit. So basically, the answer for your question is the ADR, the architecture decision record. That's a document you should just create. It should not be like really formal document. It's just some template, some text that you made an informed decision that monorepo or multi-repo is good for your business needs. And that's pretty much it from my side. So thank you very much. And actually, that's a QR code to our newest episode that was released just today at 6 p.m. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Maybe a question going back to the very beginning of the presentation. Yep. So you mentioned Google and their monorepo. Why are they lying to us? Because they have a huge team that is supporting monorepo and they have budget for maintaining it. Like that's pretty much it.
No, I think the second pitfall was in second pitfall you mentioned shared, and third pitfall is not to do shared libraries at all. Why is it like that?
Like you mean why should we even share anything within the monorepo?
No, it's a general question. Like you had example with the shared and.
Yeah, that's a kind of a really good question because my example had shared stuff, and actually that was anti-pattern. The product, keeping the product interface or anything related to business stuff in shared is kind of not really good idea. Maybe if you have some really small project, okay, then it's fine. But there was also some UI component, and then I like reused some business interface there, like my item, but it made this component completely not reusable. So it's totally fine to have shared stuff within monorepo stuff, like, but it should be just used as is. So if you are using some Google or some Angular material, for example, some predefined components, they are kind of shared because they're provided by other teams, for example, or you are even maintaining them. But that's the share that it's really good. Like they are stable, they should be stable, because any change in bigger setup, bigger project is really painful. So the shared stuff is just really fragile. If you change them, it's really painful, but if they are stable, it's totally fine. Okay, so thank you very much once again.